My name is Joanna Price and I live in New Mexico. I handed my daughter to my parents with shaking hands when I was rushed in for emergency surgery. I trusted them because they raised me, because they said they loved her. But when I woke up and called to check in, a social worker answered. My parents had dropped my daughter off at foster care and boarded a plane to Hawaii with my sister's two boys, grinning in every beach photo. I had sacrificed everything for this family. Now they'd treated my child like trash. That was the moment I stopped begging for love. What my family didn't know, I had legal custody of Grandma's ranch, and I'd been quietly documenting every betrayal. I never thought handing over my daughter would feel like surrendering a part of my soul. But that's exactly what it felt like standing there in the hospital hallway, still in my paper gown, clutching her favorite pink blanket, and begging my mother to take her just for a few days. "It's just until I recover," I had whispered. My voice was weak, barely audible through the pain. My appendix had ruptured, and the infection had spread. The doctors were clear I needed immediate surgery, or I might not make it. My mother nodded, arms crossed, expression unreadable. My father stood beside her with a worn silence that always made me feel small. But they said yes. They promised they'd take care of Lily. I even saw a flicker of warmth in my dad's eyes when he reached for her hand. I thought I could rest finally. I thought I could focus on surviving. I was wrong. The surgery took longer than expected. There were complications. I spent 3 days unconscious in the ICU, another 2 in recovery. When I finally had the strength to speak again, the first thing I asked for wasn't water or food, or even the nurse. I asked for my daughter. The nurse helped me dial my parents' number. No answer. I tried again. Nothing. My hands started to tremble. Eventually, I called the landline. Still no response. That's when I remembered my parents weren't big on answering unknown numbers. So I tried my sister Monica. Surely she'd know where they were. She picked up on the first ring. "Hey, Joe," she chirped. "Monica. Where's Lily?" "I've been trying to reach Mom and Dad for hours." Silence. Then a cough. "They're, actually in Hawaii right now. Took the boys. Kinda last minute." I blinked. "What do you mean they're in Hawaii? Who's watching Lily?" Again silence. Then she said it casual and cruel. "They dropped her off with someone before they left. I think child services or something. I don't know all the details." My vision went black. A buzzing filled my ears. I couldn't breathe. I hung up without saying goodbye. I pressed the call button. The nurse returned. I asked her to help me call the local child welfare office. I gave them my name, my daughter's, my parents'. The woman on the other end of the line said she'd check the system. A moment later, her voice changed. Quiet, professional, apologetic. "Yes, Ms. Price. Your daughter was placed in temporary care 2 days ago. We've been trying to contact a relative." No one responded. I could barely hear her over my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Temporary care. My daughter. Alone. Abandoned like some forgotten suitcase at an airport. My parents didn't even try to notify me. They didn't stay by her side. They didn't wait. They didn't explain. They just left. With Monica's kids in tow. Off to Hawaii. Palm trees. Cocktails. Selfies. I hung up, then vomited over the side of the hospital bed. There are moments in life that split your soul in two. That moment was one of them. Because it wasn't just the betrayal. It was the realization that this wasn't new. My parents had always favored Monica. Her smile, her college degree, her husband, her perfect little boys. I was the single mother. The one with bad judgment. The one who kept making excuses. Never mind that I worked 2 jobs. Never mind that I never asked them for help until now. Never mind that Lily loved them. None of that mattered. They made their choice. And now I would make mine. I refused to be trampled on any longer. I refused to let them discard my daughter like a piece of trash. They had no idea what they'd just done. They thought I was weak, recovering, vulnerable, disposable. What they didn't know was that I had power too. Power they'd overlooked. Because for the last 5 years, I'd been the sole legal custodian of Grandma Marie's estate. Not just her house, Not just her land, but the oil rights underneath it, the trust fund, the investments my parents never knew she passed on to me in secret. Because she saw something in me no one else did. Because I was her favorite, and I had been quiet for too long. I was still in the hospital when the photos started rolling in. It began with a tag on Facebook, Monica posting a bright, overexposed selfie at Honolulu International Airport. Her caption read, "Aloha Paradise." Nothing like a surprise family getaway with mom, dad, and the boys. I stared at the screen, unsure if the pain in my chest was from the surgery or the betrayal that kept tightening like a noose around my lungs. There they were, my parents, smiling, sun-kissed, standing at baggage claim next to Monica's grinning sons, both holding rainbow-colored leis. I zoomed in on my mother's face. She was laughing. I scrolled, photo after photo. Dad grilling shrimp skewers on a balcony. Mom in a floppy hat, sipping something fruity out of a coconut Monica, doing yoga on the beach. In one video, Monica's youngest ran up to Mom shouting, "Nana, Nana, look at the fish I found," and she swooped him into her arms like he was the only child in the world who mattered. My daughter's face, Lily's tiny freckled cheeks, her shy smile, her stuffed bunny, none of it appeared once, not even a mention. They didn't even pretend to care. I hadn't eaten in 36 hours, but now my stomach curled in on itself like something starved and dying. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped the phone. I had always known Monica was the golden child. But this went beyond favoritism. This was deliberate cruelty. This was abandonment of an innocent little girl who only wanted to be loved. A girl who, before I was wheeled into surgery, kept clutching her bunny and whispering, "When will Nana come?" And they left her, dropped her off like a dog at a shelter, boarded a plane, posted about family bonding and so much love. They had deleted my daughter from the narrative, and I was supposed to heal. How do you recover when the people who raised you treat your child like a burden? When they bask in the sun, while your daughter spends her nights asking strangers why her grandparents didn't come back? I wanted to scream, to rip the IV from my arm and run to the foster home and scoop Lily up and never let her out of my sight again. But I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Not this time. I stared at that screen until the nurse told me I needed to rest. Then I made a choice. I would remember every post, every comment, every like. I would remember how my sister replied under one photo, "This is the best trip ever. The boys love having Nana and Papa all to themselves, at my daughter's expense." I saved the entire album, downloaded every image, every video, every timestamp. It would come in handy later, because here's what none of them knew. I wasn't just some forgotten sister or a desperate single mom they could toss aside. I had kept my mouth shut for years. I let them call me irresponsible, dramatic, selfish. I let them judge me when I didn't show up for Monica's baby showers, or when I declined invitations I knew were only given out of pity. But in silence I had built something stronger than their approval. While they flaunted vacation photos, I had signed papers. Grandma Marie didn't trust anyone but me. She saw the truth, how my mother only came around when Marie got sick, how my father couldn't even fix the broken step on her porch, how Monica always arrived empty-handed, but left with antique jewelry and Grandma's china. Grandma left everything to me, quietly, through her lawyer. A month before she died, she asked me to come alone. No one else knew. Her last words to me were, "Take care of what's mine, and don't let them steal from you anymore." At the time, I didn't understand what she meant. Now I did. They hadn't just stolen from me. They had tried to erase my daughter, my only reason for surviving. But I wouldn't just take revenge. I would take back everything. Still lying in that hospital bed, I contacted my lawyer. "Pull the documents," I told her. "Everything about the Price Ranch. I want it airtight." "Are you sure?" she asked. "You'll be changing your will." "I'm not changing my will," I said. "I'm changing the narrative." Then I contacted the Child Welfare Office again. "I want my daughter back," I said. "I'm being discharged in 24 hours. They warned me it wouldn't be easy. There were procedures, home checks, evaluations. I told them I'd cooperate with everything, because I had nothing to hide. But my parents, Oh, they had everything to hide. They had no idea I knew about their hidden debts, the second mortgage on their house, the payday loans in my father's name, the credit cards Monica had maxed out using their account. I had the login. I had the receipts. They thought they abandoned me. But in truth, I was just getting started. Because the woman they left in a hospital bed was the same woman who held the deed to the land they thought they'd inherit. You don't just wake up one day and realize you were the unloved child. It's a slow erosion, a daily tide that wears away at your sense of worth until all that's left is silence, quiet compliance, eager apologies, and a desperate hope that maybe today will be different. I was 8 the first time I noticed. It was Monica's birthday. Pink streamers hung from every corner of the house. A mountain of wrapped presents sat on the dining table. My mother baked a 2-tiered strawberry cake with delicate roses piped in pink frosting. I remember asking, "Can I help?" She looked at me deadpan and said, "You'll just make a mess." So I stood back and clapped with everyone else while Monica opened gift after gift, each more expensive than the last. I got a used coloring book and a pat on the head. At 12, I made the school honor roll for the first time. I raced home certificate in hand, only to find everyone in the living room cheering for Monica's first cheerleading photo. She got a necklace. I got told to stop bragging. At 16, when I told them I wanted to go to college out of state, my father laughed and said, "Let's be realistic. Monica wanted the same thing 2 years later. They took out a loan. I wasn't angry then, just confused and quietly heartbroken." By the time I got pregnant at 21, barely out of community college, working 2 jobs, they didn't even yell. They just looked disappointed. And then they looked past me. From that moment on, they spoke to me like I was a cautionary tale, not a daughter. I became the example of what not to become. The well Joanna made her choices, afterthought at family dinners. They praised Monica's husband like he was royalty, even though I knew he cheated twice. They spoiled her sons with iPads and skiing trips, while my daughter received secondhand sweaters and the occasional Barnes & Noble gift card. And still I kept showing up. I came to holidays. I bought gifts I couldn't afford. I smiled through lectures about stability and better decisions. I watched them lift Monica up on a pedestal I'd never even been allowed to stand near. I told myself it was for Lily, that if she saw her grandparents smile at her enough times, maybe she'd grow up believing she belonged, that she mattered. But now I knew better. Because the truth was, they had always shown me who they were. I just refused to believe them. Even as an adult, I kept trying to earn what should have been mine by birthright love, respect, protection. I sacrificed my dignity for scraps of affection. I told myself my parents were old-fashioned, that they'd come around. But now they'd crossed a line. They hadn't just belittled me, they had endangered my child. They had left her vulnerable and alone, and I would never forgive myself for trusting them. So I started writing it all down, every slight, every moment, not for revenge yet, but to remind myself of the pattern, the years I gave, the pieces I lost. I went back through old emails, letters from Grandma Marie, bank statements, photos, everything that documented my years of invisibility, because something inside me had shifted. I no longer needed their love. I needed justice. I needed closure. And more than anything, I needed to break the cycle so Lily would never grow up wondering why love had to be earned. As I scribbled notes in the journal beside my hospital bed, one entry stood out in bold memory. It was Thanksgiving 2 years ago. I had just lost my 3rd job that year. Lily had the flu. I couldn't travel. I told Mom we wouldn't make it. She replied, "Monica's boys will miss Lily. Can't you find a way?" I explained I didn't have money for gas. She texted back, "Well, maybe next year. Monica says hi." That night, Lily fell asleep on my chest, burning with fever, and I promised her things would change. They hadn't until now. Now I had clarity. The clarity that comes when you strip away the fantasy of family and finally see the truth in its naked, ugly form. I was never the problem. They were. They raised me to believe I was hard to love. And yet here I was, fighting for a daughter, with every ounce of strength I had left alone in a hospital bed, more of a parent than they had ever been to me. That kind of love doesn't come from approval. It comes from fire, and mine was just getting started. It was the old cedar drawer in Grandma Marie's bedroom that changed everything. She always said, "Keep your eyes sharp and your hands steady, Joe. What people don't say matters more than what they do." I never forgot that. After she passed, they let me clean out her house. Monica said it was too dusty, and Mom didn't want to deal with the emotional mess. I was the sentimental one they claimed, as if that was a flaw. As if loving someone deeply made you weak. But I didn't cry as I sorted through the drawers that smelled of lavender and wood polish. I was too busy being methodical, precise. Grandma taught me that. And then, in the back of her closet behind her old wool coats and a shoebox full of war bonds, I found the drawer with the brass handle that always stuck. Inside were 2 envelopes bound with twine and labeled in her cursive hand. One said, "Trust papers." The other said, "For Joanna only." I froze. My fingers trembled as I untied the string. Inside were legal documents notarized and signed. She had made me the full legal trustee of her estate 6 months before she died. The house, the land, the mineral rights beneath it, and a quietly growing investment account worth over $600,000, all in my name. Not my mother's, not Monica's, not shared. Sole. Irrevocable. I remember sinking onto the floor and shaking, not from joy, but from something far heavier. A validation I didn't want to need. A love I hadn't expected to still find tucked away in a locked drawer after years of being treated like I didn't matter. I kept it secret because I knew if my parents found out, they'd come for it. They'd smile and call it a misunderstanding. Monica would claim I manipulated Grandma, or that she wasn't of sound mind. They'd drag me through court with crocodile tears and rehearsed grief. I had watched them twist the truth before. I knew what they were capable of, so I hired a lawyer. I placed everything in a blind trust under a holding company I named after Lily's middle name, Rosemark Holdings. Clean, anonymous, untouchable. I used a portion of the funds to clear my own debts, enroll Lily in a better school, and start saving for a future no one could sabotage. But I told no one, because power kept quiet is power kept safe. Until now. Now they had played their final card, and they had played it wrong. Abandoning Lily was more than a betrayal, it was a weapon drawn against me. And I would respond not with rage, but with precision. After being discharged from the hospital, I went straight to my lawyer's office. I brought the trust papers, the hospital records, the screenshots of social media posts, the name of the caseworker assigned to Lily's temporary placement. "This isn't just a custody issue," I told her. "This is negligence, emotional abandonment. I want full legal documentation of what they did." She leaned back in her chair and gave a small nod. "They won't see it coming," she said quietly. Good. I didn't want them to. They still thought I was broke, powerless, barely scraping by. I still lived in the same modest duplex. I drove the same car with the dent in the side. I wore thrifted sweaters and declined vacations and holidays. They didn't know I owned 4 properties under Rosemark Holdings, that I had 2 income streams and a financial advisor, that I was preparing to move Lily and me into a restored farmhouse near Santa Fe that sat on 10 acres of land my parents had once claimed was worthless dirt. That worthless dirt had a natural spring and 2 permits pending for ecotourism grants. They saw what I let them see, and they would never see me coming. That week I filed for emergency custody restoration. I submitted the documents showing that I had never relinquished guardianship, that I had named my parents as temporary caregivers, under the assumption they would protect my child, not abandon her. And most importantly, I submitted evidence that they had traveled with Monica's children, proof of premeditated favoritism and emotional negligence. The court agreed to expedite the review. Lily would be returned to me within the week. The social worker, a kind woman named Maria, called me personally to confirm. "She's doing okay," she said softly. "She talks about you constantly. She keeps asking if you know where she is." My throat closed up. "Please tell her I whispered that her mommy's coming, and that no one will ever leave her behind again." After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table in the dim light, staring at Grandma's trust papers one more time. It wasn't about the money. It was about the promise, the legacy, the line in the sand that said no more. They had erased me once, but this time I held the pen. The air outside the child services office felt different that day, too. Still too heavy, like the sky itself was holding its breath. I stood outside the low gray building clutching the stuffed bunny Lily had slept with since she was a baby. Its ears were a little more frayed now, the fur dulled from years of being loved too hard. Just like me, I supposed. Worn down but still holding together for her. The receptionist recognized me immediately. "She's in the playroom," she said softly, as if the moment required reverence. And it did. Because my daughter wasn't just a child waiting for pickup. She was the only pure thing left in a world that had betrayed us both. The door creaked open slowly, and there she was. Alone at a tiny table coloring quietly with a red crayon. She looked up, and everything shattered. "Mommy." Her voice cracked like a question wrapped in disbelief. My knees buckled. "Yes, baby, it's me." She dropped the crayon and ran so fast that she knocked over the plastic chair behind her. Her little arms wrapped around my waist like she was trying to glue me back together. "I thought you were gone," she cried into my stomach. "They said you were sick and didn't want me anymore." I dropped to my knees and cupped her face. "No, Lily, never. I didn't leave you. I would never leave you." She shook her head, tears streaking her cheeks. "Nana said she'd be right back. But she never came." I waited and waited. Then strangers came and took me away. I kissed her forehead. "I'm so sorry. I should have never trusted them. But I'm here now. And I'm taking you home." The caseworker gave us space, but she watched with kind eyes. She handed me a small file when I stood up, notes from Lily's temporary placement. A list of questions Lily had asked. Most were simple. "Where's my mommy? When can I go home? Why did Nana forget me?" But one question made my heart cave in completely. Was I bad? No child should ever have to wonder if their existence was the problem. That question became my anchor. I promised her right then and there she'd never ask it again. We left the building together, me holding Lily, and Lily holding the bunny, all three of us stitched together by love and scar tissue. Back at home, I tucked her into my bed and she fell asleep gripping my shirt, afraid I might vanish in the night. I lay beside her wide awake. That's when I made the final decision. They weren't getting another chance. No apology could fix this. Not this time. The next day I filed for a formal restraining order against my parents, not out of vengeance, but protection. I needed them out of our lives, out of Lily's mind, out of the shadows, where they had always lurked smiling for cameras while hiding knives behind their backs. The lawyer said it wouldn't be difficult. "You've got more than enough evidence," she told me. "Photos, dates, testimonies, the abandonment report. This won't just be a restraining order. It's a record. A wall." "Good," I said. "Then I want that wall tall. And I want it permanent." That same evening, Lily woke up from her nap and asked me one small question. "Are we going to see Nana and Papa soon?" I swallowed hard. "No, sweetie. We're not. Not for a while." "Okay," she whispered. "Can we send them a picture of Bunny?" That nearly broke me. Because even after what they did, she still wanted to share love with them. That's the kind of heart she had. Soft. Hopeful. I told her yes, but I didn't send it. Instead, I took a photo of her holding Bunny smiling with a gap in her front teeth, cheeks flushed with the safety of home. And I saved it. Because that smile, that was my proof that healing had begun. The next morning I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. I drafted an email to Monica. Subject: you might want to tell Mom and Dad to come home. No greeting, no warmth, just a single image attached: Lily holding the bunny with the words, "Return to legal guardian," stamped in bold beneath the photo. I added a second sentence before hitting send. "And you may want to consult a lawyer before using Grandma's house for your wedding next spring." I knew they had been planning it. I also knew they'd never signed the deed. Because I had it. In a locked drawer. I waited for them at the arrivals terminal with my back straight and my heart frozen. It had taken some coordination, but I'd tracked their return flight. Monica had foolishly posted a selfie at the resort gate the day before, captioned "Last sunset, before reality. See you soon, Arizona." Except she'd forgotten I wasn't part of that reality anymore. They didn't know I'd be waiting. They didn't know that this time I wouldn't be crying. This time they would be. The automatic doors slid open, and there they were. My parents pushing luggage carts, Monica trailing behind with the boys all sunburned and smiling draped in leis, like they'd just returned from a royal tour instead of abandoning their granddaughter to strangers. My mother spotted me first. She blinked surprised. Then she smiled as if nothing had happened. "Joanna, you're here. How are you feeling, sweetheart?" My father followed her lead with a weak wave. "We meant to call you. Things got hectic." Monica looked smug, like she was watching some petty reunion about to go down in the parking lot. They had no idea. I didn't return the smile. Instead, I pulled out a slim manila folder from my handbag. "Before you say another word," I said calm and clear, "I suggest you read this." Mom's smile faltered. Dad tilted his head. "What's this about?" "An official notification," I replied. "Legal. Signed by a judge yesterday morning. You're being served." I handed them the envelope and watched their faces shift. Confusion, then dread, then disbelief. Mom scanned the first page, lips parting. This says we're under investigation. For child abandonment. Yes, but we were just... You left a 6-year-old at a state agency and flew to another country with Monica's kids. Don't pretend you forgot. Don't insult both of us." Her voice wavered. "We didn't think it would be permanent. We assumed. You assumed wrong." My father stepped forward, voice raised now. "How dare you do this to us? We took care of you when you were a baby. We gave you everything." "No," I said coldly. "You gave Monica everything, and you threw my daughter away like she was a burden." Monica scoffed. "This is ridiculous. You're just bitter. Grandma's house isn't even..." "Grandma's house," I interrupted, "belongs to me." Their faces went pale. I pulled another document from my bag. Deed of ownership. Recorded, verified. The land, the property, the mineral rights. All mine. I let you play pretend long enough. But that game is over." The boys looked confused, holding their Game Boys in silence. Mom looked like she might faint. Monica looked like she wanted to scream. "You," Monica hissed. "You let me plan my wedding there. You said nothing." "Exactly," I said with a calm smile. "And I watched as you told everyone you would inherit it. As you talked about removing the old barn, gutting the kitchen, rebranding the ranch. I took notes. I watched. And I waited." My voice lowered, because I needed to know how deep the rot went. Mom dropped the folder. "Joanna, please," she whispered. "We made a mistake. We were overwhelmed. It wasn't personal." I let out a small, humorless laugh. "You left a child behind like forgotten luggage. You flew to paradise while she sat crying in a strange room with a stuffed bunny and no explanation. You didn't call. You didn't check in. And now you want me to believe you were overwhelmed." Dad's jaw clenched. "You don't have to destroy the family over one mistake." I stepped forward until I was inches away. "You destroyed this family. I'm just making it official." A silence fell over the terminal. Travelers passed by, pretending not to listen, but stealing glances as if they were watching a drama unfold on live television. And in a way they were. "Stay away from me. Stay away from Lily." I said each word, razor sharp. "There's a restraining order in the process, and your names have been flagged at her school, her doctor's office, and my new residence. You're not welcome. You're not invited. Not now. Not ever." Monica finally snapped. "This is insane. You've always been unstable. Grandma should have given the house to Mom." "She didn't," I said simply, "because she saw what I see now." "What's that?" Monica spat. "That you only love what benefits you." They didn't respond. They couldn't, because the truth was burning its way through every layer of their carefully built fiction. I turned to leave, and as I walked away, I said without looking back, "Oh, and Monica, you may want to cancel those wedding vendors. The ranch won't be available. Ever." Then I stepped into the sunlight outside and took the deepest breath I had in years. For the first time in my life, I was the one walking away. Forgiveness is a strange thing. People think it's about letting someone off the hook, wiping the slate clean, pretending the pain didn't happen. But I've learned something much harder. Forgiveness isn't about setting them free. It's about setting yourself free. It took me months to come to that truth. After the confrontation at the airport, my parents went silent. Not a word. Not a letter. Not even a denial. Just nothing. like they'd finally realized they couldn't spin this one in their favor. But Monica, she wasn't done. She sent an email, then a voice message, then another. Her tone started sharp, accusing me of betrayal, of being spiteful, dramatic, ungrateful. But the messages changed over time. By the fourth one, she sounded hollow. "Joanna," she said, her voice hoarse. "I know we've done some things, maybe more than some, but please don't take the ranch away from the family. Mom hasn't been the same since the airport. Dad barely speaks." I listened to it in the dark, sitting on the porch of Grandma's house. My house now watching the wind ripple through the wild grass. Lily was asleep upstairs in her new room, wrapped in handmade quilts and surrounded by bookshelves we built together. She was healing, laughing more, sleeping deeper, asking fewer questions that began with, "Why did they?" I saved every one of Monica's messages, but I never replied. They didn't deserve access to us just because they felt regret. Regret is the price of cruelty. Still, I didn't block her, because there was a part of me buried deep in the same place where that little girl once begged to be noticed, that wanted to know they finally felt it. The loss, the shame, the echo of what they'd thrown away. And eventually they did come. Not to the house, to court. I received an official statement of surrender regarding the abandonment investigation. My parents signed it, quietly accepting responsibility in exchange for the charges being sealed. The lawyer said it was a way to avoid scandal. I saw it differently. They were finally admitting they had failed me, failed Lily, and that acknowledgement, it mattered. I didn't need their punishment. I needed their truth. Still, I wasn't going back. I mailed them one letter, handwritten, short. "I forgive you. I truly do. But Lily and I are building something you were never part of. We don't need your permission to be happy. We never did." That was it. No return address. No opening or closing. Just a line drawn in ink. After that, I turned inward toward healing, not revenge. I restored the ranch. Slowly, quietly, I poured myself into it. I planted sunflowers where the front yard had been bare. I repainted the porch swing Grandma used to sit on. I found her old recipe box and cooked every single dish with Lily one night at a time. We turned grief into memory, pain into power, and something strange happened along the way. Joy came back. Not the loud movie scene joy, but the quiet kind. The kind that lingers. The kind that doesn't ask for applause. Lily began calling the ranch our forever house. I started sleeping through the night. And one day, as I watched her chase fireflies in the dusk light, I realized I had built something Monica and my parents could never touch. Peace. Not just survival, not just defiance, actual peace. And with it came a new path, one I chose, not one I inherited. I began writing again. Grandma's journals inspired me. I started a blog about healing generational wounds, about what it means to be the forgotten daughter, about reclaiming your worth when the people who should have protected you tried to bury it. People wrote to me, strangers, women, mothers, daughters. They said they saw themselves in my words. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was leading, and yet I still think of them sometimes. Not with bitterness, with distance, with understanding. They did what they knew. But I am no longer the product of what I was given. I am the architect of what I deserve. So if you ask me now, would I go back? The answer is no. But I would look them in the eye. And I would say, calmly, sincerely, "I forgive you. But I've built a home where you are no longer invited." Because sometimes the greatest revenge is not a scream. It's the sound of the door closing softly behind you and the life you build beyond it.